Knopf Clipper, hi friends, Darth Momo here, and today I wanted to talk about something different, something old but with a fresh take on it. I wanted to talk about the Star Wars Special Editions and why I respect them and George Lucas for doing them. Um, this isn't going to be a talk about, oh, this is why I like these changes or why these are good. No, talking about the individual changes made to the films has been done over and over and over again over the last 2-3 decades. It's been beaten, it's done, we moved on. I'm here to talk about why, in principle, as a filmmaker, I respect the idea of the special editions and why George Lucas would edit his movies and why I agree with that. The more I've studied George Lucas over the years, the more my opinion has changed on this. Back 10, 15 years ago, once I kind of really understood and learned what the special editions were, I felt like the rest of the internet. I was like, oh, that's stupid. These changes are stupid. Yeah. George Lucas shouldn't have done that. Bring us the original cuts. Ugh. But as time's gone on, the more I've just learned about the special editions as a topic, and the more I've just learned about George Lucas as a filmmaker and just him as a man and his career and what he's done and his work and his life's work and legacy, the more my thoughts have changed and grown more nuanced, and the more I just respect him as a filmmaker. A lot of the issues I think that we face in Hollywood and just with film and the industry and television, etc., I feel like these are all issues that he was talking about and working against 40 years ago. We talk about this idea like studios getting involved and just producing corporate slush, no passion, etc. George Lucas was talking about that in the 70s. And I would consider the era of the 70s and the 80s probably far better for television and film than it is now, as far as quality and passion. George Lucas just completely revolutionized the industry. So him going back and kind of re-editing his films might seem like an outlier from someone who was otherwise, by all accounts, a great visionary, a great filmmaker who completely just changed how movies were made. But when you go back and look at it, it makes sense. It's basically who George was. George never changed. And I've made other videos discussing some of this, but, George Lucas, part of the reason he went back and made changes to the original trilogy was to fix things that he wasn't happy with because he couldn't do it the way he wanted to in the 70s and early 80s. Now, for those of you who don't know that much about me, I'm a filmmaker. No, I'm not from Hollywood. I'm not out here making the next blockbuster or working on that, etc. For years, me along with other friends in high school, we made short films. I wouldn't call them like A-list Hollywood legendary films. Like, they weren't amazing, but we were working on being filmmakers. This wasn't just, hey, let's just film a stupid video that's 30 seconds long real quick and put it on TikTok. That wasn't even a thing back then. This was like real legitimate, like, you write out a script, you bring your camera, you get your actors, you try to come up with different sets, locations, you edit it, you put in some special effects where necessary. Like, we were amateur filmmakers. And there was a lot of growth that came with that. There was a lot of things that we couldn't do on earlier videos that we could later on down the road. Part of that was just gaining resources, gaining access to greater technology, just like George Lucas did. Just to kind of speak to some personal examples, I made some Star Wars parodies when I was younger. I called them Galaxy Wars. The first one, it was pretty much my first live action short film. I had no idea what I was doing. I was 14. I had never heard of editing software, etc. I literally filmed it all with my phone and then plugged it into all the clips into DVD Maker in order. Like, I had the music on the set. I didn't really have credits. Like, I literally made credits in Paint and took a picture of it or a video of it and used that as like the end credits. Like, that was how amateur I was. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. And then I kind of learned a little bit about Windows Movie Maker, a basic editing software that was very prevalent back in the 2010s and early 2000s as well. I learned about that. I started learning how to use it a little bit. And so when I made the second Galaxy War, I did things a lot differently. Now, if we're going by the terminology of just once the film's released, that's it. You can't touch it. Nope, done. Galaxy War 1 would have been a lot different from Galaxy War 2. But because I learned some things and grew and, okay, I saw how to do this and how to do that, I was able to go back and change some things to make Galaxy War 1 look better. It fit better with the rest. Just like George Lucas, I changed the old to fit with the new because the old didn't exactly fit how I wanted it to be. I had a vision. I had ideas for how I wanted Galaxy War to look. I didn't know how to pull it off because I was just a kid. Now, obviously, George Lucas wasn't a kid. He was out of college, I believe. He was 30s or so making Star Wars. But, he had access as time went on to greater technology and greater resources. He was under budget, or he didn't have the budget he probably should have had with Star Wars. His resources were tight and constrained. People were constrained. Technology was constrained. And as time went on, the technology advanced. So he used that to go back and, it's mocked a lot, but he fulfilled his original vision. Now, does that mean that I think every single thing in the current 2019 version of Star Wars is the way he wanted it in 1977? Probably not. To go to Return of the Jedi, did he want Vader yelling no when he killed the Emperor? Yeah, that probably wasn't part of the original vision. But there's so much of it that was with the special effects, the Jabba scene, a lot of those different things that were, at least in the 1997 special edition, yeah, I would chalk that up to original vision. That just couldn't be done in time. If you look at like the history of the special effects and the making of Star Wars, it's pretty clear that there was a lot of compromises made. As much as it pushed boundaries and pushed movie making forward, that doesn't mean it was the way that George Lucas originally envisioned. So I respect that idea of going back and changing those. And I also respect the idea of like just preserving the film. First off, I just love like the efforts they went through with preserving the special edition and the negatives and making sure the film was good and all the digital cleanup. I think that's really cool and it just fascinates me. And I wish that my films were in a position where I could have such a process like that. I think it's fun. It's cool. But on top of that too, like, this is my work, like my short films and the short films of all my different friends. Like, these are our videos. These are our work. Like, we did these over the course of years. And I don't want that to be preserved in a way that I couldn't, in a way that I didn't originally want it, just because I didn't learn about a proper editing software or how to green screen in, a muzzle flash until 6 months after I produced the video. Like I get to a degree the theory of, films are works of their times, and I'm not like discounting that or saying that there's not an argument to be had or an argument to be made. I get people that feel that way, but I'm coming at this from not just an outsider or an audience member. I'm coming at this from someone who's been on the other side, someone who's been behind the camera, someone who's been behind the editing software, calling the shots, editing the videos, making short films. From that perspective, I completely get with George that like, hey, he wasn't happy with how the 77 version turned out. Now things have changed. He doesn't want his life's work to be looked at 200 years ago in a way that he didn't want it to be. He wants it to be looked at the way he wants it to be. And that's what I did. I went back and changed some of my videos so that way they look the way that we wanted them to, that we just didn't necessarily have the resources to because we were, to be quite frank, children. Now, does that mean I'm here saying that like George Lucas is, God, and that I agree with every single change and it's Lucas's way or the highway? No, I would, if I was the one calling the shots, I would not have made all the changes that George Lucas made. I agree with a lot of them. A lot of them I just don't personally, I don't have an opinion on either way. And some of them, yeah, I don't agree with. I wouldn't have personally made those. But that's not to say he's a horrible person for doing so. Recently, me and some friends worked on the production of what we called The Gunman Episode 6, the finale in a mini-series that a couple of my friends have been working on for years. Four of us worked on the story. Four of us had some different, we all, for the most part, agreed on the main part of the story. But we had differences in opinion on certain aspects of the story or certain lines of dialogue or certain way things should have been executed. Does that mean that because I disagreed from the other three people, does that mean that I'm stupid and horrible, or that they're stupid and horrible people, and that either one side or the other is clueless? No, we're individual people with different perspectives. George Lucas made these movies. He's going to have a completely different perspective than me as an audience member. Just like I'm sure if by some rhyme or reason I met George Lucas and showed him some of my videos and some of the changes I made, he might feel differently as opposed to me. That's not something to rail Lucas for. They're his movies. He has that right to do so. For those of you who think he's a hypocrite for his changing the movies in what he said in 1988 in his words about movies being colorized, I made a video on that, so go ahead and check that out. But no, I don't think that Lucas is a horrible person for making the special editions. I think that Lucas is honestly the man we needed for our time. He is one of the greatest filmmakers that ever lived and probably will ever live for a long time to come. I completely agree with all his decisions in regards to making special editions and the changes that he made and the reasonings behind that. For those of you who really want an in-depth dive on the special edition and film preservation, check out Rick Worley's video. His YouTube channel is called Rick Worley. It's about a 3.5 hour long video about the making of the special editions and the logic, and just it's super in-depth. It's really interesting just from like learning about film history. It's really interesting. Like movies get changed, maybe not to the degree Star Wars did, but movies get changed often. But George was the only one who got flack for it. I think there's so much. That's really all I could say is check out Rick Worley's video if you want more information. That's just, I go through all this different changes, like I said, but I'm not going to because that's been done. This video is about the principle and the idea of the special editions. And as a fellow filmmaker, I completely 110% stand behind George and his decisions to edit the films and to keep the films publicly available only the way that he wanted them to be. Thank you guys for joining in. Darth Momo out. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and may the Force be with you. Always. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. If you liked the video, comment down below and hit that like button. Oh, and check out some of my other videos. I'm sure you'll find them delight.